Okay, volume up. Okay, my special population, my special population. Okay, my special population is adults with autism spectrum disorder. To give you a little bit of background, autism spectrum disorder affects approximately 1 in 50 adults in the United States. Males make up about 80% of those diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. And the symptoms of autism spectrum disorder can be categorized into one of three domains: repetitive behavior and interests, social interaction, and communication. And we'll talk more about each of those here following up. Looking at this slide, it gives you a breakdown of a prevalence per 100 people of autism in the United States. There really is no geographical influence on autism diagnosis that has been found yet. There are multiple aspects of ASD, as I'll refer to it throughout this presentation. Physiologically, poor motor control. They're not able to use their hands and feet as well as those without ASD. And they have an increased vulnerability to type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and obesity. Socially, they tend to have a hyper focus on specific interests. They'll really be able to know a lot about one specific topic. This ties into as well an emotional side effect of them, their inability to express emotion. It makes it hard for them to communicate. One of the symptoms of autism is just that they don't express emotion very well. And also emotionally, they're more likely to suffer from depression compared to those without autism. Neurologically speaking, there's some key symptoms. One is called stimming, which is these repetitive behaviors like tapping their finger or tapping their feet, or sometimes even repeatedly saying phrases or words. That stems from this neurological part of the need to express. They also have incredible memory recall, specifically with numbers. There's been movies and videos made about people that can recall specific dates or specific events or results of athletic matches. That's a key sign of autism. Looking at a person who is diagnosed with autism, it is not a curable disease. Once you have autism, it is something you have for life. Now, the symptoms of autism, some of those things that we mentioned on the previous page, those can be treated by therapeutic methods, medications, and what we'll look at today is physical activity. Looking at their quality of life, There is some concern found for persons with autism regarding their diet, their sleep, increased rate for obesity, increased depression, and a resulting shorter life expectancy. The chart here on the right hand side of the screen shows that comparison of the rate of being underweight or obese for autistic people versus those that are non-autistic. To understand autism, you have to recognize that it's not a one-size-fits-all diagnosis. Rather, there is a spectrum when it comes to autism spectrum disorder. There's people that you'll interact with and meet in your lives that have autism, and it's rather popularly diagnosed among youths that have limited communication skills and repetitive behaviors, as well as a very strong mind or interest in a specific topic. Those would fall in that high functioning category. As it shifts down, you'll find that repetitive behaviors are still obvious, even with support, and communication skills continue to deteriorate, leading into severe autism, where the person needs daily support, maybe some because of loss of motor control are in need of physical assistance as well. Some are nonverbal and do not communicate at all. So it's this wide spectrum that you have to consider when looking at autism. There are those medications that can be used to help with the symptoms, some of the symptoms of autism. The first medication, risperidone, it helps with that motor control issue, allows them to maybe regain some of their functions to participate in maybe activities in exercise or just activities of daily life. Helps reduce aggression and control those outbursts and angry movements. On the flip side, it can cause sedation or to make the person very tired. And when looking at exercise, it can make it hard. The body will not recognize that it's overheating, and it won't keep the body cool. So that's something to watch for. Another medication to look at is fluvoxamine. It helps with focus, helps the person with autism, allows them to look in and be able to address what they need to. It also controls that stimming that we talked about, helps those repetitive behaviors subside. On the flip side, it can cause nausea and or sedation. Looking at autism spectrum disorder and its effects on exercise capacity over these next couple of slides. The biggest limiter of exercise capacity for adults with autism spectrum disorder is their personal severity of disease. So to break that down, if we look at 3 parts of ASD, physical, verbal, and mental, if they're high functioning in any form, it's likely that they can accomplish all common exercises, and there's maybe little that needs to be done in adjusting their exercise program for them. If they're moderate functioning physically or verbally or mentally, it's going to be case by case. To what level of severity do they need assistance, or what can they try? Looking at physical, low functioning, they might need to start with just body weight, simple one movement exercises, or things like walking and jogging, help them learn and to help their bodies grow. That's going to go the same thing. Verbally, team sports, if they're low functioning, communication assistance is going to be needed. And then mentally, they're going to need someone that's going to have to walk them through those over and over again if they can't understand them. Now, non-functioning. Physically, they're not going to be able to unless somebody helps them manipulate their movements. If they're nonverbal, they're probably going to have to do solo exercises, and they're going to need someone to be with them, a trainer, a friend, a parent. We'll talk about some resources. They'll need them with them the entire time. And if they're non-functioning mentally, likely they're not going to be able to exercise, which is unfortunate. Now, putting this all into a Venn diagram. On the outside, we see low physical capacity, on the bottom, low verbal capacity, and low mental capacity. If they have all three of those, likely they cannot exercise. If they have low mental capacity, they'll need some help. Low verbal capacity, they'll need some help. Low physical capacity, you have to start them at a lower level. And then you can see how if they have two of those issues, they're going to need some help. And there's some specific recommendations that we'll discuss. Now, looking at side effects of ASD that affect exercise capacity, it's been found that their direct exposure to exercise affects their ability to exercise. Looking at their parents and their upbringing, if an adult with autism was raised in a home where the parents encouraged exercise frequently, the adult now will have a proclivity to do exercise. It also depends on their interest or their experience. You have to look at the medication as well. Are they experiencing nausea, sleepiness, watching to make sure their body stays cool? And then other issues that we've talked about that are at higher risk for people with autism compared to the normal population, body weight issues, sleeping habits, diet. All of these things can affect a person, and a person especially with autism spectrum disorders, exercise capacity. Now, a couple unique exercise recommendations. It has been found in multiple studies that light jogs are significant in improving behaviors related to autism. 20-minute jogs found in an article in a study, 20-minute jogs over 4 weeks would decrease a person with autism's irritability and aggression. And in honor of that, I put a picture of Mikey Brannigan here running. He is an iconic professional distance runner who competes in the Paralympic Games who has autism and he's very fast. Another interesting correlation relating to exercise is the correlation with technology use. It was found in a study that the more that a person with autism spends on technology, the less physical activity they did. So that's something to watch. When you're making that exercise program for a person with autism spectrum disorder, there's a few things you want to really consider to add into the program. The first is a reward system. In a study done in 2015, tracking the number of steps that individuals aged about 20 years old with autism, they were tracking their daily steps. And they found a significant and direct correlation that when they asked the individual with autism to walk 10,000 steps and in turn rewarded them each day that they hit that goal, they started to hit that goal more consistently compared to the days when they did not offer a reward to hit their goals the following days. One-on-one assistance is super, super important, especially when they're learning new activities to help them be comfortable and familiar and want to do the program, as well as doing group activities, having a buddy to assist them and to help them feel included. Again, there's a social communication issues to consider when thinking of a person with autism. Again, it's been found that parental assistance is so key and central to a person with autism spectrum disorder. It allows them to not only fill a place of comfort, but also grow later on. And finally, it's really important that if you're working with someone with autism and they truly want to improve their exercise ability and capacity, listen to them. Ask them what activities they like to do. That will promote what's been found. A study, Hallett in 2019, found that adherence is a direct byproduct of a desire to do the activities that they select. For a person with autism spectrum disorder, there are a number of benefits from a proper exercise program. The short-term benefits are going to really help them control those symptoms of autism spectrum disorder in their daily life. And long-term benefits are going to increase the quality of their life and their overall health. So short-term, their cognition will be stimulated. Their maladaptive behavior patterns reduce, those stimuli, the aggression, things like that will be reduced, as well as quality of sleep, which is a poor habit that they're sometimes struggling with. Long term, the overall health, the reduction in BMI to have a healthy body and weight ratio, body weight and height ratio, as well as satisfaction of life. Exercise is so important for them to feel that peace of mind, satisfaction, as well as aerobic capacity, obviously, will be increased when anyone does a proper exercise program. For reference, I show a picture here of Daniel Antonson, who is a bodybuilder, but notably, he is autistic. He is now, I think, about 50 years old, has a few kids even, and is married, but exercise has been an outlet for him in his life to help cope with his symptoms, and he's made great success of it. On the flip side, if there's poorly executed exercise programs, there are negative results. Looking at their medication, you have to be so careful that the side effects do not allow the person to have harm, specifically risperidone. If the body does not keep itself cool and the person doesn't pay attention, they are at a greater risk of heat exhaustion or heat stroke. For weight maintenance and that BMI, adherence for extended periods of time is absolutely necessary. You can't just do it for a moment or you won't get the full results. Looking at that, the length of the program, these positive effects we talked about, the controlling the irritability and the stimming and helping them feel more relaxed. If the exercise program is too short or they do not do it, those positive effects from exercise will not stay with them for a long period of time. And again, as a community, for individuals with autism spectrum disorder are at greater risk for cardiovascular health, obesity, and type 2 diabetes. If they do not exercise, they have an increased risk of those issues in their life. Okay, a couple practical applications for your training program. Create program with them. There it is again, that adherence is increased if exercises or activities are something that the patient likes to do or is familiar with. Listen to them, get their input. With that being said, think outside of the box with the activities. Martial arts and horseback riding have both been found in separate studies to be something that people with autism really like to do for some reason. There's a correlation of interest compared to the normal population. There's higher interest, and those are good activities for them to do to gain their help. And making sure that they have a buddy or an exercise partner is central to continuing to that plan. It gives them accountability. It gives them somebody to lean on, somebody to learn from. It helps them come outside of their shell if they struggle with social problems. It pushes them if they have physical issues, and it helps them learn if they have mental issues. And then again, that parental support, have them as a buddy, as a friend, as a coach, as someone they can report to learn from, to look up to. People with autism need their parents' support. In conclusion, I'll hit these bullet points. It's pretty clear. Individualization is essential. Each person with an autism spectrum disorder is different. Talk to them. Be creative in prescribing those exercises. Find out what they want. And if they don't know where to start, it never hurts to start with some jogging. It's been found to be very effective. Find them someone they can work with that promotes that adherence, that ability to stick to a program when they have somebody to work with. Be aware of their medications and be adaptable as you listen and work with them. And as they have issues or express needs, be sure to help them reach their goals. These reference pages. Thanks.